Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Tuesday. Our toll-free number 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. The physical delivery of wealth insurance. Gold and silver, it is what we do. And, I thought we had more time. I thought that we had more time, and I was wrong. We don't have more time. Right now, the bond market yields continuing to rise, and it's simple. It's a simple thing. Too much debt, not enough buyers, having to increase, right? Well, you got to pay me more. You want me to lend you money? You got to pay me more. Bank of America yesterday talking about how big the debt is really getting, how fast the interest payments are actually rising, talking about $37 trillion by the election, talking about $40 trillion come the second half of 2025. I mean, you start thinking about what they're talking about here. It's like $5 trillion in a year. I mean, what happened to $3 trillion, $4 trillion? It's kind of like gold. What happened to, we were at 2,000 for the longest time. What happened to 2,100 now today? What happened to 2,200, right? Well, they're gone, right? Huge jumps forward. Now they're starting to lose control of the precious metals markets. It's another all-time record high in gold, silver, having a huge day. The Dow down today, obviously, right? I think they're starting to figure it out. The bombing yesterday in Syria of the Iran consulate, they killed some high-ranking generals. That is another wild card. You're right. Those are things. Hey, we know there's a war in Ukraine. We know that, we've got Israel and Hamas. But it sure looks like that war is expanding. Crude oil now almost $85 a barrel. And, Jason, it just seems like things are going from bad to worse in a lot of different areas. And at the same time, Tesla, bad day today. Tesla's down to, 7-8%. Car sales falling there, and now big talk about how much taxes are really going to have to go up because it looks like we've got a major problem starting to brew in these debt markets. Yeah, I don't hear Jason, so I don't know.
Here? How about now?
There you go.
Okay. Well, things are moving, Joe. Things are absolutely moving. We've been talking about this for, it seems like years now, which I think it has been. And gold is a leading indicator of inflation. All the things that Joe just said, see, these are all things that are lending itself to a higher gold price because things aren't working the way they should. Gold is there for protection. And something I don't say much. I told you, I was talking to Joe this morning. It's like the reason it's a leading indicator is because guys that don't buy gold, big, huge money, tend to buy it when they know they get the information first. All the lagging data. Remember, Joe, we got all the lagging data months later. Well, somebody's getting that information. Somebody's putting that together way before we get it. And those ears and those hands get to use that information. And that's why a lot of people missed $1,250 and $1,350 $20 gold pieces in 2018, 2019. And I keep telling people I was one of those where you say, that's a good old days. That was a great time to buy. We've been saying in 2022 and 2023, good old days. This is a great time to get it. There's never a bad time to get it. But we could be going from $2,000 and $2,100 $20 gold pieces to $3,000 gold, $20 gold pieces. You're still in that zone. You can still get it. And here's the thing. We don't know how fast and how far it'll go. We think, if it goes to 2,500 and settles down, all right, well, that was bound to happen. It could go to $4,000. It absolutely can fold over and double over. And when you see 2,200 and 2,300 gold and you're thinking, I think I missed it. At least with gold, there's not really a time that you miss it, Joe. It's just not a time. Yeah, it does go down sometimes, and you have to wait for it to come back. But it's got an upward trend, Joe, that's looking eerily similar to the '08 housing crash, and I don't think it's going to get overbought this time like it did in 2011.
Yeah, it's not a good thing because this is kind of, we've been waiting. How long, how big could the debts get before we run into these problems? And now, again, every day it's a record amount of treasuries that need to be auctioned. We're seeing the 10-year note approaching 440. Here's the thing. The 10-year note is the lowest yielding note the U.S. is selling right now. Everything else is above 5% or near 5%. Even the 30-year note is, has to sell at a higher premium. And remember, Bank of America's analysis, if you missed yesterday's show, you need to go listen to it because it's a huge warning. They took the CBO's data where the CBO is talking about, hey, every 100 days or so, we're adding $100 billion to the interest payments. How does that happen? Right? Well, yes, we're adding some debt, obviously, but the problem is it's the debt we already sold. Debt that we already sold 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. That has to be repurchased at a much higher rate. Is just starting to cascade, and it's starting to have an effect on these markets. It's going to be, hey, we told you this was going to be the year of chaos. It's definitely living up to the name. We'll be back right after the break. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason on this Tuesday. A quick look in at the markets. The Dow's down 400, the S&P's down 48, the NASDAQ down 212, the 10-year note 437. It's been almost a 440 today. Crude oil up $1.15, 84.86. I won't even tell you about gasoline and diesel fuel. You can figure it out for yourself. Gold right now up $24, 2,260. That will be another new time record high close. Hit a new all-time intraday high this morning, 2273. We've had pretty much every month, even June, the TV contract right now, 2280. August and above, all over $2,300 in gold. Matter of fact, February futures almost hit $2,400. Silver up 80 cents, right below $26. That's kind of the magic number right there. $26. Silver, March silver contracts above $27. And of course, we keep telling you about diversification. This is kind of, the way we look at it, probably the end of the bubble sometime in 2024. When is it exactly remains to be seen. But what happens after? Especially when we're talking about the explosion of the national debt now, the explosion in interest rates. They keep begging for these rate cuts that I just don't see how they can happen, at least not yet, because the data is going to have to get a lot worse before it does. Get yourself diversified. If you haven't gotten into the gold and silver markets, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? What do you really need to see? What are you not seeing? As far as all of your other investments, check out our friends at YRefi. Why? Why should I check out YRefi? Why do I want to do that? Well, you can get up to a 10.25% fixed rate of return. Right? Who doesn't want to lock in a 10.25% no matter what happens? Well, what happens if crude oil goes to 150 because there's all-out war in the Middle East? Still get 10.25. What happens if Wall Street, instead of the Dow being down 400, what if it's down 4,000? Well, you get 10.25. Right? Well, what if the Dow goes up 4,000? Well, you still get 10.25. It's not correlated to Wall Street. If you have $50,000 or more, you can use an existing IRA. Heck, some of you can even use a 401k. I still laugh at people that have hundreds of thousands of dollars in your bank accounts. You are going to regret it. Believe me. Check them out. InvestYRefy.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or just call them at 888-YREFI24. Jason, in Utah now. House Bill 348 permits the state of Utah to the treasurer to hold up to 10% of certain state revenue accounts in physical gold and silver to really protect the state against inflation. And here's what's interesting. Utah now joining Texas and Ohio, who've already purchased gold. Meanwhile, Missouri, Tennessee, Idaho, and West Virginia now all have similar laws making the way through their state governments. California, boy, it just gets worse now. California, remember, they're saying, oh, well, we're gonna have a small budget deficit. You know, it was $38 billion. Then they said it was $60 billion. Then it said it was $78 billion. The latest numbers out of California, this is just how fast it goes. $222 billion. The state of California is now $1.6 trillion in debt. And Jason, the same problem is starting to rear its head in these states that have really bad fiscal health. A lot of their budget now, not only do they got to borrow the money, they've got to pay the interest on the money. You know, we talked about cities like Houston, who said, hey, we're out of money. Denver says we don't have money for immigrants. Tucson, we don't have money for the illegals, right? Jason, this is this big debt storm. And when you think about the states, they don't have printing presses, right? They don't have the luxury of borrowing at 4.5% or 5%. It's going to be really something where I think a lot of people are going to be caught off guard by the tsunami of debt and what is going to have to actually be paid as these interest payments start taking over the vast majority of the money.
Yeah, and in the case of like California, they have the GDP of a medium-sized country. You know, I figure I can't remember. It's been a while since I see it, but
bigger.
California's
medium. I mean, they're like a top 5, 6, 7 economy in the world by themselves. You know, right? They're right up there. Correct. You know, with Germany.
So to compare them to countries that don't have the World Reserve currency like the federal government does is it's a good indication of where these other countries are. You know, when America sags and has problems, a lot of dependent countries are going to fall and sag with it. And you can just look at California as being one of those. California loves taxing. They love socialist policies. And so they're going to suffer and suffer. But, you know, in the end, as long as they bow to the federal government, the government wants to be the way it is now. California is kind of like they're waiting for their welfare, right, Joe? You know, they depend on that welfare from the federal government. Well, look where it's getting them, right, Joe? All those numbers you just said, they're not doing well. And at some point, you know, it's like a broken record. You hear lots of people say it, more than just me and Joe. But at some point, it's going to fall apart. So at some point, the money will just stop. At some point, the money stops having any value. And at some point, California is going to get a big reward of a whole bunch of money, and then when they go to spend it into their economy, nobody's going to want it. You know, then what do? You know, then suddenly these states that are getting into gold and silver, they may have up and down years, but by the time it gets there, but they're going to be doing a lot better because they'll have hedged this whole thing that's going on.
Well, and again, it's just another example of looking for alternatives to holding dollars. This is just what this is about. This is no different than what China's doing, India's doing, Brazil, Turkey, whatever. The list goes on and on. There's Poland, right? All of these countries getting into gold, countries repatriating all of their gold. I'm really watching the debt markets right now. This is something where we know every 100 days the Treasury's got to come out and say, well, we got to borrow more money. We got to borrow more money. We got to borrow more money. It just kicked in all of the new increases in the bond markets starting to have this effect. And now you throw in a wild card. What is Iran? Iran is saying they are going to retaliate. Is this going to, if that war expands, then right, everything's off the table. But outside of that, it just is something where the math doesn't work very well right now, and that's the big problem in the. Excuse me, I had a stage right. That's the big problem in the markets, Jason. I mean, we're watching gold hitting record highs. With the bond market, right, yields are skyrocketing. And normally when you see yields go up, right, the dollar gets stronger. That normally means gold goes down. Gold's supposed to go down when yields go up. And it's the exact opposite. It seems like the higher these yields go, the higher gold is going, because it really is, it's indicative of two things. One, inflation's not going anywhere. Okay, that was just a bunch of make-believe and made up number. They don't even really track inflation to begin with. But number two, it really is indicative now, the amount of debt that needs to be sold every day. It's starting to overwhelm the markets, and you have so much of the world now looking for alternatives so they can buy less dollars. And I'm not just talking about them buying gold. That's settling trades in other currencies. Hey, Brazil, I'm going to buy soybeans, I'm going to buy corn, and we're going to settle it in renminbis, that we're going to settle it in rupees, we're going to settle it in anything other than U.S. dollars. And it's starting to have an effect because we're kind of at that perfect storm. If you ever did, Economics 101, supply and demand, remember that? Supply and demand. Well, we have a situation where supply is skyrocketing. Demand is falling. Now, is it collapsing? No, let's not call it a collapse. But it is falling at a time when the supply, Jason, is just overwhelming markets right now.
That's correct. I mean, if you want to look at gold, and I like that you bring up the geopolitics a little bit, because if that war expands, that could be the emergency that essentially covers up gold going up. Most people that even those Wall Streeters, they all know that when gold starts to go up, it's a signal. It's a very loud and very specific signal of what's going to happen. If you look at the average closing day gold from 2015 to 2018, it was 1158, 1251, 1260, 1268, just kind of going up a little bit. Then in 2019, it took a little bit of a jump. The average closing price for gold in 2019 was 1393. Okay. And then what happened? 2020 and COVID, and gold's average daily price jumped to 1773. That's about a 30%. It's give or take a little bit, but it's about 30%. And yeah, people watching markets like me and Joe saw it happening, but the average guy was too worried about social distancing and wearing a mask. Okay, so there will be some emergency that'll capture the news cycle while gold's doing what it's doing. Look what happened last year. 2023, gold was kind of underbought. People weren't, we had people selling. The inflation's still hot. But the gold price was below 2,000 and then jumped up at the end of the year to 2,000, 2,050. That's what happened in 2019. Joe and I were on the radio telling, look at this repo market, not the reverse repo, the repo market. And some big banks, or one or more, they're not covering their ends overnight. it was happening. And voila, here it came. So let's just look at 2023. Gold jumps up, back up to that mid-2000 range, which had been there a couple of times over the last few years. Not exciting for people watching, but now where is it now? And if it keeps moving, the media, the central bankers, the decision makers, they don't want you to watch gold go to 2,300 tomorrow or this week. They don't want you to see gold going to 2,400. Something, most likely, Joe, there'll be a catalyst. There's going to be some sort of distraction cooked up, real or not, and they're going to try to get everyone not looking at it because it's an economic mess. It's an economic mess. That's what it is. But, Joe, if they want to see Iran bombing people in Syria and Israel bombing people in Syria, that's what you're going to see. And gold's going to be $2,600, $2,700. And people are going to be too worried about World War III or whatever the news is going to spit out. And economically, where are you going to be on the other side of it? Because we all survived COVID, right, Joe? I mean, I get it. There's a bunch of people. The world as a whole survived it, right? But where were you? What were you doing during those times? Were you buying gold leading up to that? Were you buying gold during that? What are you doing now as this emergency, whatever it's going to be, Joe, and it's coming? What are you going to be doing before that? Why not buy today, right, Joe?
We'll be right back after the break. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Tuesday. Remember, we got jobs coming up, so we'll get ADP tomorrow. That's the private sector jobs number, jobless claims on Thursday. I'm going to go 210,000. We'll see, right? Because it seems like that's what it is every week, no matter what happens. And then Friday, we'll get the government number on how many jobs were created. But Jason, it's interesting as we're watching here, and I said I thought we had more time. Bank of America's analysis yesterday of the financial deficits, kind of alarming, right? Because that's a huge increase. We're going to have a deficit, somewhere $2 to $2.5 trillion, in Bank of America saying, hey, 2025, we could see $4-5 trillion. It just, right? That's crazy. You'd think that's crazy, right? That we're going to be paying $2 trillion in interest payments all by themselves. The Biden administration, if we can call it that, is proposing $700 billion in tax increases for 2025. And it's, Jason, the sad part is that's not even enough, right? That's just a drop in the bucket. And now on the economies today, obviously news from Tesla, not good as far as car sales go, production goes. We had the JOLTS number out today. That's how many job openings. Virtually no change in job openings. They're saying still 8.7 million job openings. They did say that quits and firings were both up. So again, hiring, quits, and firings all were up. So people, hey, we're hiring, but people are quitting, and then people are getting fired. So it was kind of a mixed bag on the JOLTS number. Calvin Klein, PVH Corp, as they're known, Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein brands having the worst day in Wall Street in a long time, down double digits as once again sales. And that's kind of like those luxury, I don't know if luxury, but you can go buy, I don't know, the Kirkland brand underwear and T-shirts, or hey, I'm gonna wear my Tommy Hilfiger and my Calvin Klein, right? And Jason, people are like, yeah, I'd like to wear that, but you know what? Kirkland will do just fine. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I go to Costco. I've seen that stuff. Yeah, that's exactly what inflation does to the average person, right, Joe? Somebody living comfortably who doesn't think too much about what they're spending, suddenly that creeps up on you really fast. And if your income isn't creeping up at the same rate, you have to start looking at it very closely. So, yeah, watch your prices. Yeah, don't get lazy if you're someone that's living a little better lifestyle. It'll catch up on you, won't it, Joe? People that were comfortable become uncomfortable. People that weren't comfortable become very uncomfortable, and people that are very uncomfortable become desperate. That's what inflation does, and it's by design. People, Joe, they just don't get it. This is by design. This is not an accident. This is by design. All you have to do is look at 1913. Inflation before that didn't exist. Inflation after that existed. A central bank built in with private companies, private owners of that bank delivered this system to us deliberately to enrich themselves. And, Joe, I don't think Americans or anybody across the world really understands this anymore. And this just, unfortunately, is the system we live under. They're going to inflate themselves into a better position while we, like rats in a wheel, just keep running their system. You just keep running in the wheel and not getting anywhere. Your family, it's not the same as their family, right, Joe? There's these elite families. They have rules. They have, just look what happened to Princess Diana, right? When she decided to get out of one of those elite families. Those are the things. Those are the things you got to look at.
It was a car crash.
Yeah. Paparazzi. It's all paparazzi. Yeah. Well, she divorced out of one of those elite families. Now, you can divorce out of your family. Yeah. At least you're not going to get killed for it. But that shows you how serious these people are that make the decisions about money. They have control. They make the rules. And you can't go in there and change it all by yourself, but you can learn how this works. Gold and silver is essential. Actually, very elite families, generational wealth, they'll tell you, that gold is one of the essential things to have generational wealth. They do art, they do gold, they do property. I mean, those are the essential three things: art, gold, and property. And all three of those things have essential parts of building generational wealth. So we handle one of those, Joe, right? We handle gold and silver, and I just, for the people that just are sitting there and listening and just they have the means and they don't put it in, it's hard to fathom, right, Joe, that they're not putting it in here and putting it in now. Anybody waiting for a pullback, I'm sorry, Joe and I were talking about this morning. If we get a pullback in gold, which of course is going to happen at some point, is it going to happen at 2,600 gold? Regardless of when it happens, the premiums will probably start going up right about the time that pullback in gold. You are not going to save money by waiting, Joe, right?
No, unfortunately, that's kind of the realities of it all, and I don't know how bad it will be, how fast. There's a lot of people that are much smarter than me saying we're setting up now anywhere between 2025 to 2030. You pick the time. There's going to be a major problem in the U.S. Treasury market, and that's hard to comprehend because that's the one thing that the full faith and credit is dependent upon that Treasury market, and unfortunately, the amount of debt is finally. I guess we're finding out, right, that okay, we're at almost 35 trillion. The Fed still has 7 trillion, and oh, by the way, hey, by 2030. According to according to Bank of America, they're like, hey, listen, we're going to have 70 trillion. I mean, how do you finance that? And I think the answer is you don't. I think that's really the thing. You don't. And what happens? Well, the standard of living is what happens. It's affected dramatically. Now, all-time record high. Now, people saying, hey, how much money do I need to retire? Just hit a new all-time record high. Guess what? Next year, it's going to hit another high, right? The year after that, the year after that. Yeah. Remember when $1 million was a lot of money? Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after 1-800-951-0592. Joe and Jason on this Tuesday, another record high in gold. Right now, gold's up 20, 22.57. Silver's up 81 cents, $25.88. We've got a utility silver special today. Right now, I just got notification there are no backdate cases of Silver Eagles out on the market right now. 2 weeks for 2024. So on the Silver Eagle market, by the way, premiums starting to go. That's kind of what happens, right? Premiums go up when there's not a lot of it out there. And it's funny because I think a lot of places are like, yeah, well, I've got a lot of the small guys selling silver, the big guys gobbling it up here. And this is a big power move here. Closing above 25.50 is big for silver. Closing above 26, even bigger. But right now, rolls of silver dimes, they're going to be $110 a roll on silver dimes. Silver quarters, that's the deal of deals here, $210. So you get $10 worth, 40 silver quarters at $210, 50 dimes at $110, and then the half-dollar rolls. That's 20 silver half dollars at $225. And then for you gold guys out there, I'm going to give you another shot here on $20 gold today. It's not as good as yesterday. Obviously, gold's up another $20. 1 through 19, 2,450. If you buy 20 or more, 2,440. And again, we're at this place right now, Jason, where gold moves any more from here. And Jason's been saying, hey, don't be surprised to see 2,300 this week. You won't be buying gold 20s for under $2,500. You just won't.
And the utility silver today, that's a great price. I always watch the prices at allamericangold.com. You can go to our website, allamericangold.com, and check prices. A roll of Silver Eagles, which is, Joe has just told you, is getting expensive, and it's getting more scarce right at this point. $6.75 a roll at our website. So if you look at 3 rolls of those quarters at $2.10 each, there's essentially 21 and a half ounces of silver in 3 rolls of quarters, or 6 rolls of dimes. Okay, so you're looking at 21 and a half ounces of silver, 3 rolls of quarters is $630. 20 ounces of Silver Eagles is $675. You've got an extra $45 there, plus an extra ounce and a half of silver. If you're somebody that's not bought junk silver, this is an absolutely great day to jump in on. Get a quarter bag. I don't know what our limitations are, but get a quarter bag, get a half bag, buy a bunch of it, because this is, my guess is the junk silver premiums will start to jump as the Silver Eagles finally become too hard to get. It's the next thing to buy, right, Joe?
Yeah, and really, as Jason was saying, hey, they're both U.S. government hallmarked. Right?
Yep.
Pre-1965 dimes, quarters, half dollars, and even the half dollars, right? When you look at that, it's the same price as Silver Eagles, but you got an ounce and a half more of silver, right? The quarters is the best deal of it all, because not only do you get the ounce and a half more of silver, but you're paying $45 less. And really, an ounce and a half of silver, that's almost another $40 on top of that. So you can't go wrong there. And then on the gold side, to be able to buy $20 gold pieces for single digits over percentages over spot, that's crazy. Right now, just what I would say an average price would be, you probably would be talking about somewhere in the mid 2,500s. So it's probably $100 below. And that happens when you have these power moves. It takes the physical market, it takes them a little bit to catch up. Well, there's a lot of guys out there that, hey, you know what? I've got stuff that I bought 2 weeks ago Well, gosh, gold was $100 less 2 weeks ago. Okay, I'll give you a deal today. These deals will run out quickly. Take advantage here. $20 gold pieces, 1 through 19, 2,450, 20 or more, 2,440. And then, of course, the junk silver all across the board today at 800-951. 0592, and we had more economic data. We had shipping data. This is a big GDP number, well below expectation. So another one of those signs, some softening, but it'll be interesting. Are we going to see a big increase in layoffs? California yesterday started the new $20 minimum wage. There's headlines everywhere talking about fast food companies just laying people off, Jason. I don't know how much of that is they're just mad and how much of that's reality. We're going to find out.
Yeah, I know. I was watching Pizza Hut's getting rid of all their drivers. So no more delivery. You go to your Uber Eats or whatever the thing is that delivers food to you. And those are all indications. I delivered pizza for 20 years. I know all about that. I made good enough money. I made every dollar count that I was able to, when they weren't supposed to give loans out to stated income people like me back in 2004 before the housing crash. I was able to buy a house on a single income. I was making a Herculean effort, but I was able to do that back then. That ain't happening. You can't do that. They don't pay you enough money. The tips aren't as good. The companies they just squashed all that. And those are indications of a lower standard of living. Pizza driver's never going to buy a house again, I don't think, Joe.
Probably never again, right? 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason. We're going to wrap it up on this Tuesday. 800-951-0592. The Dow's down just under 500 points now. The S&P down 55 points. The Nasdaq's down 221. By the way, more bad news. Medical insurance, get ready. Costs are going to go up. Health insurers getting just kicked right now, down about 10% across the board as the federal government did not increase enough, I guess, for lack of a better term, the Medicare, Medicaid insurance reimbursement to the health insurance companies, already grappling with cost here. And again, this is just part of, there's not enough money to go around. And Jason, it's having a huge effect now. And you know what's going to happen, right? What do you think United Health or CVS Health or any of these other healthcare companies are going to do? Right? They're going to raise premiums because, hey, the government's not going to give us enough. A 3.7% increase for Medicare, that's not enough, Jason. That inflation's much higher than that. Get ready. Just get ready.
I think the insurance industry is definitely feeling a lot of stress right now, and they do have at least one way of getting it. A lot of industries can't just raise prices the way they do. There's so much required insurance out there that they can't lose their whole market, right, Joe? They can't, unfortunately, the laws make you have to have car insurance just to drive around. So the insurance companies have a way, hey, you have to have homeowners insurance if you have a mortgage. So they're feeling it though, Joe. You can tell the way that they're raising the prices is, and I've gotten it. I had 40%. Homeowners insurance premium rise, and then I was told by the broker that I use that the company you use, they don't even want to be in Colorado anymore.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound good. When you grow a business, you want to expand. You don't want to pull out of Colorado. So that shows you there's problems. I found in Florida, they don't want to insure homes that are in flood zones anymore at all.
California. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And this is just another example that we're talking about here, right? It's hey, one way or the other, we're going to end up flipping the bill for all of this. $20 gold pieces, 1 through 19, 2,450. 20 or more, 2,440. Gold's up now $23, $22.59. Silver, the utility silver special, rolls of 50 silver dimes at $110. rolls of silver quarters, which is the deal of deals here at $210. That's 40 silver quarters. $10 face value, 7.15 ounces of silver. Rolls of silver, $half at $225 at 800-951-0592. And Jason, again, we're watching, look, crude oil, $85 now. Well, $84.97, right? $85 crude oil. Insurance rates, a big drop today by all the healthcare insurance companies because the federal government said, well, here's 3.7%. And they're like, what's that? What? That's not enough. That's not going to do it. Hey, you know what? Don't worry. We'll take care of it, right? Get ready for higher healthcare premiums. And of course, but they've got inflation under control, Jason. They've got it under control. Don't worry. Take their word for it.
They've had control over it since 1913. They do have control over it.
Yes. Their control is they have no control. That's the control they have. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason wrapping it up. We're coming right back.